All right, FFA, good morning, everybody. As we jump start this Wednesday morning training, here we are in April already. 3 months of the year are down. March definitely shaping up to be a record month of production. As we dive through those reports, we will get you guys sent out your production reports as soon as possible. But I know so many of you are on track to just have a massive month. And here we are kicking off April in such a great fashion. So could not be more excited as we jump into spring. All right, we've only got 3 months left before we take the Cancun incentive winners to Cancun. So make sure if you guys qualified for that trip and you do not have your passport yet, make sure you get that thing locked down. I had to get mine renewed this year. They got it back to me within like 2 weeks. So super fast process. But here's your reminder. If you don't have it, you're definitely going to need it. So make sure you go out there and get that squared away. On today's call, we're going to dive into how to beat every objection in insurance. All right. So if you're a new agent on the call, this call is definitely for you. If you're an experienced agent who has seemed to struggle with objections, this call is going to be for you. And it doesn't matter if you're on the phone or if you're in person. There's one thing to do to beat every objection that you come across. And it's so simple, but so many of us make it so complicated. So I'm going to dive into that with you guys here shortly. But first off, I want you guys to go in and give a big shout out to Kay in WhatsApp. Kay closed down her first annuity yesterday. We did a training on it. And then next thing you know, boom, she's already got a few in the pipeline. So nice work to Kay. Big shout out to Paulo. Paulo submitted a bunch of them here lately, and he got his first one funded and in the process of getting issued. So super excited for him as he's going to see that first commission come in from his annuity that he's been able to do and put all that hard work in. So nice work to you guys. Nice work to everybody as a whole, as you guys have just took this year and multiplied what you're doing. You're mastering the final expense sales. A lot of you are adding health and Medicare, annuities. Sky's the limit. You guys are exploding in growth this year. So super proud of everybody. But let's jump into this, guys. How to beat every objection in insurance. All right. Think about all the objections you get, from at the door to being in the house, to being on the phones, people hanging up on you, people not answering the phone, all these things, right? Objections are something that you can master. All right, believe it or not, you as an agent can get to the point where you just don't get objections. All right, it's amazing. They're not even there. They're not even present anymore. I remember being a new agent and just struggling with objections, right? They would always pop up. I couldn't overcome them. I would lose the sale. I wouldn't be able to follow up with them, right? And it was just this revolving door. And it wasn't until, all right, I got humble enough to get coached by Alicia, where she went through her presentation and I saw she doesn't get objections, right? And why was it that she wasn't getting them, but I was? And why is it that some agents can go into a house, close it, very simple, it's easy, but other agents could go to that exact same house or talk to that exact same client on the phone and not be able to close it? Why do they get hit with all these objections? Guys, it lies in one thing. And really one thing only. It's the agent's ability to connect with the person they're talking to. All right. So I want you guys to really think about that in your presentation. What does it look like for you in terms of what is your bond with the person you're talking to? See, the reason when I was new, when I was getting hit with all these objections, it was because I was so focused on the presentation, on the product. I was less focused on the client, and I really wasn't bonding with them. All right. It was just a transactional talk, which really led me to nowhere. It wasn't until I started figuring out people skills, how to connect, how to relate to people, how to build a bond, that the objections went away. All right. So if you're an agent and you think back on your week so far we're sitting here, Wednesday morning, right? And there's been some presentations you didn't close, whether it's on the phone or in the house. Think back to what that bond looked like. Chances are your bond wasn't that good. So we're going to dive into how to connect, but I'm going to give you guys a lot of information on today's call. All right. It's not going to be surface level, how to just connect with people, talk about their family. It's going to be like legitimate strategy into how to connect with each person that you sit with, no matter what kind of person it is, no matter where you're at, whether you're in the country, whether you're in the city, whether you're in a poor neighborhood, whether you're in a rich neighborhood, doesn't matter, right? Whether you're talking on the phone to a multimillionaire, or you're talking on the phone to somebody that is on, Medicaid and a fixed income, doesn't matter. All right. These strategies work and they're going to help you a lot. All right. So first up, the very first way to connect is by active listening. Okay. Active listening. See, when I was new, my presentation was like 80% me talking, 20% the client talking. But then I flipped that. I flipped it around to where it was only 20% of me talking. It was 80% of them talking. And I was just listening. And that alone built a much stronger bond with the client that I was presenting to. So I want you guys to look at how your presentation looks. Are you throwing up on people? Way too much information. Are you over talking them, or are you letting them talk? Guys, your job as an agent is to ask questions, which allow somebody to tell you, right, what they need. All right. It gives you the solution, but you can't connect with them if you do all the talking. Think about it. Have you ever been in an engagement with a new person before, and all they do is talk about themselves or what they've got going on or whatever it is, right? Generally, after a few minutes, you're not even interested in talking to that person anymore, right? Because they're just throwing up on you. All right. Chances are they like you because you're sitting there listening, but people like to be heard. All right. And if you want to connect well with your client, you have to let them talk. You have to let them open up. You have to ask the probing questions to be able to allow yourself to listen to them. So if you're struggling with closing people, if you're struggling with objections in this sales process, you're probably not invoking enough emotion to get them to talk so that you can actively listen. So that's number one. You have to actively listen. All right. Number two, shared experiences. Guys, this is key. There's something that has happened in your life, all right, that you can relate to the person you're sitting with, no matter who it is. It doesn't matter if they're from the same country as you, if they're the same color as you, if they're the same age as you. It don't matter if they're big, if you're small. There is always something that you can relate to with somebody. And that's what you have to bring together, right? When me and Alicia first met, all right, I was a new Marine. I had just got my first paycheck. Not first paycheck. I was a couple paychecks in, all right? But I was like 19. I remember coming off the military base at Camp Lejeune, and there was this brand new Mustang sitting on the car lot, all right? And I did what everybody instructed us as young Marines not to do. I went to this car lot, and I got pre-approved for the loan. Okay, my paycheck at the time was like $1,200 a month, and the car loan was like $650. And I don't know how, but they approved me for that loan, right? And I bought that Mustang. Should have never done it. Horrible financial decision, but check out what happened. It was because of that Mustang that I ended up meeting Alicia, because a month later, she was driving a Mustang and I related to that car. I said something about it. I was like, nice Mustang. She unrolled the window and here we are 12 years later, right? We were relating on a shared experience. I had a Mustang. She had one. Guys, your clients are the same way. Think about it. If you're walking up to somebody's door and they have something that you can relate to, all right, their grass. Maybe they really take good care of their grass and you take good care of your grass. You're a landscaper. They are too. They like flowers. You like flowers. There's something you can share. All right. Maybe they answer the door and they're not feeling well. Maybe you're not feeling well. You can relate. All right. Maybe something has happened in your local community. All right. Like in Western North Carolina, people are still recovering from the hurricane. All right. If you're working out that way, You can relate to that event. All right. There's so many different ways of shared experiences. And check it out, guys. The shared experience is not through insurance. Nobody really cares to talk about insurance. Not that exciting, but they love to talk about their life, what they have going on. You can relate to that. Maybe you have kids and they have kids. One question I ask everybody is, hey, do you have any tips for me? Right? If I find out that they have kids, they have a son or a daughter, right? I've got 3 sons and 1 daughter. I'm going to say, hey, which one was easier to raise, a boy or a girl? Do you have any tips for me raising my little girl? Right? I let them give me advice, and I'm not doing that superficially. I genuinely like to listen to the advice, right, that they give me. So I can relate. Shared experiences, they can relate. All right. It builds trust, it builds connection. But if you're not diving into a deeper conversation with your clients on the phone or in person, you're going to get hit with so many objections, you can't combat them all. So shared experiences will eliminate objections in your presentation. People won't give them to you if they like you, if they trust you, and if they relate to you. But the solution, right, to every objection that you're getting is in your connection with that person. If you're not connected, if you're not bonded, you'll always get objections. All right. Let's talk about number 3, authenticity. Okay, guys, being transparent with people beats objections all the time. It will always work. If I have a client, they answer the door and I get in the presentation, right? And they're just one of those people who stand off. I know you guys have been in a house like that. They're not really paying attention to you. You're trying to present, you're trying to connect, you're trying to pull some emotion out, and they're just not having it, right? They're just not interested, whatever the case is. Guys, be transparent with them, right? I will stop what I'm doing. I'll say, hey, Miss Betty, you look kind of distracted. Is this something you really don't need anymore? You're not interested in this, right? You would be shocked at how that little bit of transparency flips their attitude around and they're engaged with you again. All right. Be transparent with what you're doing, with what you're asking. Guys, nobody likes to be sold. They like to be served. All right. Acts of service. That's what people are looking for. That's what they're looking to purchase, is an act of service, not a transaction. So when you're presenting, you have to do that. If you're a telesales agent, all right, this is a little bit more complicated for you to do this on the phone. It's very complicated to connect with somebody when you can't see them. All right. So if you're a telesales agent, how do you do that? You ask important questions, right? You can still relate. All right. You can still connect with them, but you got to spend a little bit more time pulling that out. All right. Asking them things on the phone. How's things going? All right. How's your family doing after that hurricane? How does all these different things? So authenticity is super important. When you're sitting down with somebody, they can tell if you're actually caring about their situation or if you're just trying to make them a number and sell a policy and move on to the next one, right? I remember being in this business for like 7 months. And it was like that 7-month mark, the 8th month, that I stopped selling stuff. I went into this slump. People weren't really letting me in the door. When they would let me in the door, the presentation was quick. And, I got out of one of those houses. I went Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I did 13 presentations in 3 days, and I didn't close any of them. I went 0 for 13. And I sat down and was reflecting on why that was. And it was simple. I was so focused on the activity that I wasn't even connecting with people. I was in and out trying to just, sell a policy, move on to the next one. I was missing the most important thing in the presentation, which is how to connect with people. All right. Thursday, I slowed down. And from Thursday to Friday, I finished the week at like $8,000. But that was because I slowed down and I focused on connecting more than I focused on how to do the presentation the right way, right? I just focused on that connection. Guys, if you're connected well, if you're bonded with your client, all right, you should always follow the presentation, but you shouldn't need it. All right. I know that sounds funny coming from somebody who built the presentation. It's a system, right? But if your connection is that good, you can just say, hey, Miss Betty, go get your life insurance plan. Let's review it. And she'll do it because she likes you, she trusts you, and you have that bond. All right. Now, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd recommend you still follow the presentation, but your connection should be so good that if you did say that, that's the result that you should get. So let's talk about some simple ways of how to actually connect. All right. People skills. All right. Let's talk about mirroring. All right. If you know what mirroring is, put it in the agency chat or put it in the comments. I'm going to get technical with you guys on this call so I can give you some real good nuggets going into your day-to-day. Mirroring is mimicking your client's body language. All right. How they're talking. If they're laid back in their chair, you should be laid back in your chair. If they're at the edge of the table, you should be at the edge of the table. All right. If they're at the edge of the table and you're lounged back on their couch chilling, it's not a good fit for you, right? You're not going to connect well. You have to mirror. All right. And something interesting happens when you mirror somebody. Eventually they start mirroring you. And that's what you want to have connected. If you're talking to your client, right? One of the tests that you can do to see if you're connected good is if I say like, hey, Miss Betty, the weather outside's really cold, isn't it? And I'm shaking my head and she starts nodding her head and she says, yeah, it is. We're connected. We're actually bonded because we're mirroring each other. But if you notice that your client isn't mirroring you back, you're not connected. All right. Don't even think about going and beating an objection. You need to stop what you're doing, circle back and reconnect, small talk again. But that's a test that I do with everybody that I talk to. I'm seeing how well connected we are. If they're mirroring me and I'm mirroring them, we're actually bonded. All right. And believe it or not, that's a stronger connection than just talking to people. If you notice your body language is mirroring each other, you're on like a different level of connection. That's a test. All right. That's like a green light for you to move forward in your presentation. So think about that. Pay attention to it. Mirroring. Now, I know on the phone, you can't do that, but there's subtle clues on the phone. If you're a telesales agent, if they're not talking back, they're not answering you, right? They could be mirroring you in their tone of voice. So pay attention to those things. All right. Let's talk about relating. All right, guys, if you get hit with an objection in a house, let's give the bank account objection. All right. Hey, I don't give my bank account to anybody. I've been scammed before. I've had my card stolen. I've had whatever the case is. I don't auto draft anything. I pay everything with a check or a money order. Guys, you can relate to that. Chances are you have been scammed in the past. Somebody in your family's been scammed in the past, right? I remember we took the kids to Disneyland. I put my credit card in the gas pump down there in Orlando. The next thing I know, I'm getting charged $1 in Connecticut. I'm getting charged $1 in South Dakota. I got like 10 different $1 charges. Called the bank, they paused the card, but that was a scam, right? So if I get hit with a bank account objection because somebody's skeptical, I tell them that story. Hey, Miss Betty, look, I know that you've been scammed before. I've been scammed. This is what happened when we took our kids to Disneyland. But the reason the insurance company needs this, right, is because blah, blah, blah. Then you dive into how do you actually beat the objection. But you have to relate to that objection by connecting. If you don't do that, if you just try to overcome it, you're not going to beat the objection. So every objection that you guys are getting in the house or on the phone, if you really think back to your life, you can relate to that in some way, shape, or form. And you need to share the story of how you can relate to that and then beat it. All right. So mirroring is number one. Relating is number two. If you're just bypassing things, if your client says, hey, I really like the idea of insurance, but I had this term policy in the past. I thought it was whole life. It got canceled on me. I don't even like insurance companies anymore. Guys, you can't just overtalk them, right? You have to realize you're not connected you didn't do a good enough job at your presentation. You need to stop what you're doing, circle back, and small talk about something completely different. Talk about something that you guys can bond over, connect over. That's not even related to insurance, and then jump back into your presentation. So one of the best ways to beat objections is to not even talk about them. Stop what you're doing, get hit with the objection, reconnect about something totally different. Small talk about something completely different. If they're a basketball fan, March Madness is going on right now, college basketball, right? Totally, whatever. They hit you with a bank account objection, but you know that their basketball team is in the Final Four or whatever. Stop what you're talking about. Hey, okay, yeah, you don't want to pay an automatic draft. I got you. No biggie. Hey, what do you think about this March Madness tournament? Small talk and connect, and then come back to the objection and beat it. But if you're getting hit with a lot of objections, it's because you're not connected. The best agents out there, guys, they beat objections before they come up. All right, because they're so well connected, they don't even become a thing. So you have to do really good at practicing that craft. All right. And lastly, all right, the simplest way to beat every objection in this business is to care about how your client feels about the objection they're giving you. They can sense that you care. All right. Think about it. If you gave somebody an objection, somebody comes to your house today, they knock on your door and they want to sell you solar. Okay. Here's this literally happened to us last year. Somebody came down one of those little hoverboard looking things, right? Flying around the neighborhood. They come flying in my driveway, knocked on the door, and they wanted to sell solar. And my objection, I had two objections for the guy. All right. And I wasn't being difficult, right? We go door to door, so I'm not going to be difficult to him. But I just had honest questions for him. My first question was, I don't know that the HOA allows us to change our roof like that. I don't think you can have solar panels on our roof without HOA approval. And he completely ignored that. He didn't connect with me, nothing. He was just like, maybe that's not a big deal. But hey, here's our pricing for the solar. Had he done a little preparation and said, hey, Ryan, I totally understand that. I hate HOAs too. My HOA complains to me all the time about whatever. I'll look into it for you. I would have maybe moved forward with it. But he didn't care about my concern. You guys have to show a genuine care about your client's objection if you want to beat it, no matter how silly you might think it is. All right. The second objection that I gave him in that was, I built houses for a long time and I'm a licensed contractor too, right? But what happens when I have to replace my roof, right? Them shingles on that roof are coming up on 20 years old. All right. In a couple years, they're going to be 20 years old. They've probably only got another 5 to 10 years. So if I go put all these solar panels up there, what happens when I got to switch to shingles? Who's coming to take all those down? How much is that going to cost me? All this stuff, right? And he didn't even care. He said, oh, yeah, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal, though. They just bolt through, you can just take them off. He didn't care. All right. Me and my contractor brain and thinking, that's going to cost like $30,000 to get somebody to remove all of those solar panels off of that roof. He didn't care about it. He didn't care about the concern. He didn't make a sale that day. But if he actually cared and he said, Ryan, I don't know, but let me talk to our company boss and I'll see, maybe we could throw something in here where we come take the panels down and we'll reinstall them at no extra charge to you. Maybe then I would have moved forward, but he didn't care about the objection. He was just trying to make a sale. So guys, one of the best ways for you to connect with your client is to show a genuine care about the objection. Ask them questions about why they're giving you the objection in the first place, right? So if Miss Betty says, hey, Ryan, I love this idea. I love the insurance. I really need it, but I need to talk to my kids first. I'm not going to say, well, Miss Betty, talk to your kids whenever, but I'm just going to submit it for you. No, I'm going to care about her concern. I'm going to say, hey, Miss Betty, I totally understand. I would want to know if my mom was buying something too. can I just ask you, like, what's the concern that you want to talk to? What would they be if they were here right now with you? Do you think they would tell you, no, don't do that? Or yes, that sounds like a good idea. I'm going to show care into her objection. And that's the way to beat it, guys, because if they know you care, they know you're actually working towards a solution. They're not giving you an objection, all right, because they just want to blow you off or whatever. They're giving you an objection because they have an actual concern. And if you bring out what the real concern is, you're going to be able to get past it. A lot of objections are just a surface level thing, but there's always an underlying real objection to it, right? So Miss Betty wants to talk to her kids, maybe. Or maybe the real objection is her kid handles all of her bank account information and she don't even know what it is and if she can afford it and whatever. Maybe that's the real objection. But the one she gave you was just surface level. Maybe when they answer the door, all right, and they say, hey, now's not a good time. Don't say, well, okay, I'll come back. Figure out, why is it not a good time? Hey, I'm so sorry to catch you off guard, right? I'm showing that I care. Okay, let me ask you this. I can do this very, very quickly, but why is now not a good time? Don't be afraid to pull the real objection out for you to be able to beat it. So guys, some simple tips for you of beating every objection. All right, if you can overcome these objections, you're going to do very, very well. If you struggle with objections, you have to practice this. The more you connect, the less objections you're going to get in your presentation. So focus on the connection and the rest of the process will be simple for you. So I appreciate you guys for jumping in here for this Wednesday morning training. Let's go finish the second half of this week strong. All right. Can't wait to see what team finishes as number one here in the agency this week. A lot of you guys are battling each other, all right, internally to see who the top team is this week. But can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see who finishes up the week as agent of the week. All right. And we will be back here on Friday.